we are not being, or we are not capable of these things very much ties into the way that, you know, we're oppressed in other ways. Like, you know, you talked about the way that, like, self-confidence is stripped out of people. You know, I feel like we have to be told we're no good in order to believe that we're no good. And it takes decades to even, like, fully unravel that idea, oh, I'm not worthy of this. You know, but that's beaten into us, like, you know, sometimes by our parents who they themselves were told they're not good. Sometimes by our friends. Sometimes we're just scared of the idea of ourselves being good. You know, ourselves being able to do these things. But, you know, I think that, at least for me, that's one thing that I hope anybody listening to this gets, you know, it takes away from it. It's like, you know, whatever it is, like, you know, you can do it. You don't have to rely on the market. You don't have to rely on state certifications. You don't have to do, you know, any of those things. You know, unless you're going to be a surgeon, please get a state certification if you're going to be a surgeon.
There's certain things where there's a value in being licensed, but...
One of the things that I try and talk about with people is I think as anarchists we also sell ourselves short collectively, not just as individuals. Like, my argument is that anything that mainstream society can do, anarchists can do. Because society is made up of us, not just anarchists, but people.
We're a part of that thing.
People are like, yeah, but in anarchist society, how are you going to make antibiotics? And I'll be like, well, how do we do it now?
Right.
We'll get those people to make antibiotics. You know, or you know, and it's like, well, yeah, like surgeons or whatever. It's like, well, I'll ask my anarchist surgeon friend about how he does it, you know? I mean, like...
Right.
There are anarchists who have gone to medical school.
Right. And anything... And it's actually... And I try to use the counter of it also. Like, anything that mainstream society can do, we could do also. We could probably turn into some horrible oppressive regime that isn't anarchist at all and call it anarchist. Like, and so we have to be conscious that... Because I think we sometimes, especially through DIY culture, see ourselves as so outside of society, and it's like, actually, we're just pieces of it. But the thing, one of the other... Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I took notes.
I love you take notes. I can't do that either, so... Wow.
One of the other things that... One of the reasons to create from a political point of view that I think about a lot is this idea of sort of the cultural front of the battle. Of the, you know, battle against whatever, the state, capitalism, fascism, whatever the, you know, patriarchy, whatever the specific enemies that you're focusing on. I think about Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock is like my generation's... It holds up. I went back and I looked at it. And
it does hold up. Oh, yes. I saw it.
They worship a compost heap. Mm-hmm. They buy and sell everything. They're also total nasty hypocrites who totally rely on the working class little oppressed dozers. And so it's the perfect anarchist show. And they don't need a king. And they all give each other things and then give each other the same things back the next year and whatever. And that kind of culture fights against... You know, someone who's raised on Fraggle Rock is maybe going to have better ideas than someone raised on some other cultural ideas. And this isn't really my idea. This is like, I talked to a bunch of anarchist fiction writers a while ago, and like, basically whenever I want to figure out something, I just ask really smart people to explain it to me. Mm-hmm. That's what I did instead of going to college. Instead of like reading the books, I'm like, can you just tell me?
How does that work?
And one of the things that a lot of people would talk about is that fiction is a really good way of helping people come up with the archetypes that they feel like they can be. Mm. And so the lives that feel possible to lead to sometimes appear in art or in aesthetics. And when we create an aesthetic culture, we allow people to live in these certain ways. And when we... and for me, like most of my focus is fiction. When we create these characters and when we create these sets of problems and how people might solve them, we're asking questions and asking the reader to learn to answer those questions and hopefully creating cultural change.
Empires Crumble.
A podcast on politics, culture, history, and magic.
Empires Crumble. With Ali Valkyrie
and Reed Wildermuth.